there has been this prevalence of prominent figures who identify as the left, right, or on the left, who then later start to, you know, cozy up to right-wing figures, and then it turns out that they completely move to the right wing because they're essentially paid to do it.
Welcome to the Majority Report. Everybody who's flocking from that in sinking ship.
Gloves are off, basically.
If you joined us yesterday, you saw me in the very beginning cover up a Twitter dust-up between Emma Vigeland and Ana Kasparian. Now, this all happened after Silly and Billy posted a couple of clips of TYT embarrassing themselves, posting their L's, getting very angry on the internet on what they thought was their safe space. TYT, their bonus content is only for their paying members, and so they feel themselves to be in a safe space, and they like to get things off their chest. They like to vent. They like to complain. They like to talk, and TYT was very much doing that yesterday. Let's just refresh our memories on what these clips were. Matt Lech retweeted one of these. Emma responded and talked about the money that they got from Katzenberg and whether maybe some of it had gone towards union busting. And then Ana caught feelings from that.
Kasparian, all back in the studio here, Parley Market Studios in LA. Last thing is about Peter Thiel. So apparently he put money into Polymarket, right? So that people are holding that against us. Now, I didn't know that when we did the deal, but does it matter? I'm gonna say something revolutionary. No, it doesn't matter. Why? Okay, Peter Thiel also financed PayPal. Did anybody ever use PayPal? If you did, guilty. Okay, hold on. Okay, Peter Thiel also financed Facebook. Did anybody ever use Facebook? I know Emma did, because she used to make videos for us on Facebook.
This is why we have a saying that there is no ethical consumption under capitalism, and that you should not come after somebody trying to do something about this unjust system that we're all forced to participate in by criticizing, well, you participate in capitalism as well, so you got no room to talk.
You work with Peter Thiel, and Peter Thiel funded organization Facebook. Hey, give me all that money back from all of your videos on Facebook, because Peter Thiel financed Facebook. You gonna do that? No, you're not gonna do that.
This is just inane.
So it's just a piece of propaganda that they're using against us.
I don't give a shit, okay? I don't care at all. I'm here, I'm speaking my truth.
All right, so short clip there, and then I think the longer clip is here, if I remember correctly.
So finally, after somebody does it 1,000 times.
I might have watched these. I might have watched these in the wrong order.
Here's who's doing. So finally, after somebody does it 1,000 times, we're like, all right, fuck it. Here's who's doing it, and fuck them, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody's like, oh no, I can't believe you're saying that about poor Jimmy Dore. I can't believe you're saying that about poor Dave Rubin.
This is my favorite clip. This is my favorite clip here, because like not only does Jink like lose his shit, but it's like they're both losing their shit and they're stepping all over each other to try to shit on people.
Poor Sam. Okay. So anyways, yeah. And so look, they claim to be more left wing, and then they'll work.
I don't give a shit.
No, hold on, let me finish.
And it's like, I want to shit on them too. I want to break in here and shit on them. Jink is like, I am not done shitting on them yet. Hold on a second. Hold your horses, Ana.
Corporatist politicians, yes, establishment.
I mean, they agree. They're not disagreeing with each other, right? But
Kamala Harris, what happened? I thought Kamala Harris was a cop. Now all of a sudden, oh, Kamala Harris lost. What happened? What happened? There's only two things that make you cry. When establishment Democrats.
Again, like he is somebody who saw Kamala Harris at the end of the day as a lesser of evils, just like a lot of people did without endorsing her, said that there was a benefit in voting for Harris to deny Trump the win. And there was, and that was true. But now he's acting like, oh, you supported Harris. Oh, I thought she was a cop. Oh, now you support her. Oh, you're going to cry your little tears because we're happy that Trump win. I mean, like, this is just all to cover up their fucking grift. They're absolute showing their belly. They're worse than Mika and Joe. All right. They are like a more fucked up version of Morning Joe.
Lose, and when we fight back against you. Oh, well, you're not supposed to fight back. Oh, they're so rude. I mean, you're
fighting back, but you're punching left, and people fucking notice that shit. People notice that you're punching left, and they're not gonna like it.
Call them Nazis. Why are they fighting?
I still don't know where who does he think called him a Nazi? Who does he think called it? Now, you know what they're doing, right? Their new audience are people who are getting called Nazis. Their new audience are full on board MAGA, right? People that actually are, that actually, you know, in many cases, rightly so, have been called Nazis, right? So they're doing the camaraderie of the accused, but it's about something that they haven't been accused of. I've got a gazillion problems with Cenk and Ana, but them, being crypto Nazis is not one of them.
Back. You see how they're the bad guys? Let's all cry again. Cry all you want. I don't give a goddamn what you do. But if you guys support a corporatist prick in the next primary because of identity politics or any other bull.
Again, I think the Vanguard, point out correctly what corporatist prick is being supported by TYT. That would be Rick Caruso. Now, there's problems with Kamala. There's massive problems with Gavin Newsom, right? I don't love any of these candidates. In fact, I hate a lot of these corporate Dems. But he's straight up supporting a Republican for mayor of LA.
I'm going to let everybody know that all of the things you've ever done in your life was apparently totally and utterly fraudulent. And all you wanted was to get some pats on the head from the establishment.
Who's getting pats on the head from MAGA as we speak?
Populist. Are you guys populist? I don't see that at all. Oh,
listen, you're not popular and you're not populist. You are cringe, Cenk. You are a clown of the world. Clown of the world. And I'll add one more Cenkism to things that to ad homs I'm gonna throw at Cenk. Bitter man. Bitter man. He's a bitter man. He's a bitter man. Now, so a little backstory behind that, okay? Cenk used to always, when he would see somebody being bitter, he would say, bitter man, and I never knew what it was until I heard him one day mention Pearl Jam. And he's like, yeah, it's like the Pearl Jam song, bitter man. And I looked at Pearl Jam's catalog. They have some bangers, but Bitter Man is not one of them. They have a song called Better Man about a woman who can't find a better man than the one she's currently with. He's misquoting lyrics from Pearl Jam that aren't even about what he thinks they are, but he is actually a bitter man, so that one works for him.
Cheer for the establishment, yay!
Bitter man.
Okay, go ahead, do it in the next primary. Go support Pete Buttigieg in the next primary.
Bitter man.
Or Gavin Newsom, let me see you, okay?
You're gonna be supporting fucking Donald Trump, or not Trump, you're gonna be supporting JD Vance in the next election. Shut the fuck up, Cenk. Shut the fuck up. Shut the front door, there we go. That's a better way to say it. Shut the fridge. Okay, I'll do it the Brit way. Now, what have we got here? View quotes. Let's see if I can really quickly find, everybody's in on this. Matt Lech says, yeah, hell yeah, let's get into it. How much of TYT's membership dues have gone towards returning this guy's investment instead of TYT employees who have better politics than the main host? Jeffrey Katzenberg invests in TYT as part of a $20 million round. So Matt Lech jumping into there. And then after Matt Lech, we have Matt Lech again. There we go. Emma. Emma says, to be fair, some of it probably went to hiring union busting law firm, quite possibly. And then Hank Thompson chiming in. We're going to watch Hank's video in a second, and we're going to talk to Hank hopefully tonight if I've set this up correctly. If not, it's my fault and not Hank's fault, because I'm a very hard person to coordinate with. Oh, here we go. Here's Ana Kasparian. Yet another sign of her pathetic dishonesty. Emma was employed by TYT when the company announced recognition of the union. These cheap shots to make herself look like a class warrior crack me up. Class warrior is something that like Morning Joe says about Bernie Sanders. That's something that Chris Matthews would say about Bernie Sanders. Class warrior? What kind of corporate shithead are you, Ana? Especially when she advocates that we shut up and take when somebody assaults us on public transport. She never said that. Not wanting to get punched in the face is a bougie concern after all. Yeah, that's literally not what she said. So anyway, Emma responds, unclear what this means. I'm a member of a union, SAG-AFTRA. If there's a shot at my upbringing, I'll let my work speak for itself. The TYT NLRB complaint is public. I've tried to keep our differences professional. I loved you as a friend at one point. I'm sorry you've gone down this road. This probably pissed Ana off, right? No, you didn't try to keep shit professional, Emma. You've been mocking me, especially, I think she means, and running your mouth for a year. Your regression into cheering on crime. They are a pro-killing podcast, as I pointed out yesterday. She's right about that, right? Cheering on, as a pro-killing podcast, that's they got to cheer on crime. In addition to your identitarian streak is grotesque. Now let's see if I've started this MR. What do we got here from Hank? P.S. I meant to include this as a summary of union busting tactics Cenk used. We'll get into this in just a bit. Sources for these 4 articles, TYT's post, NLRB filings, and Cenk's own words in email he sent to unionizing workers, which can be read here on Alex Thompson's post. TYT's union busting playbook. Rejecting card check. There's a Bernie emote there. Withholding raises and bonuses, captive audience meetings. Captive audience is when you bring in your workers to try to convince them not to join a union. And they're a captive audience because they're at work. They have to come. Challenged composition of bargaining unit, insisting on a second election more favorable to the company. Emails. These are classic union busting tactics that they're employing here. Emails from a CEO pleading not to unionize, claims that unionization would bankrupt the company, claims that wage increase. So before they accepted unionization, as Anna's trying to say, they claimed that it was going to break them. They claimed that they couldn't have a union. They claimed that nobody would have a job if they got a union. They fucking lied to their workers, it sounds like, from what I'm seeing here, in my opinion, allegedly, all right? Claims that wage increases would take from other workers, firing a worker in the bargaining union a morning after election loss, hiring management side law and consultant firms, and publicly spreading conspiracy lies and misinformation. RE bosses. Oh, this is about, this is where Cenk's political career comes into that. So we'll get into all this. But for now, let's have some MR fun here in the fun half, which is sometimes the drama half.
Dave from Jamaica, Emma, you stating facts is grossly identitarian. It seems like people have been on Twitter. Jesus says, I think there's a reason to feel optimistic with the upcoming right-wing populist labor regime. Through shrewd betting through Polymarket, all workers will have the chance to build wealth. Dave from Jamaica. Normally, I don't dive into drama, but I think TYT loves starting fights when what is their solutions to homelessness and crime? Just lock people up because it's clear they are not for free public housing. Yeah, obviously.
Let cops be cops. Let ice be ice. As if that hasn't been what's been going on in this country for my entire life. Sam's
daddy says, I have a theory about TYT's recent swerve to the right. I think they are going on the theory that if you can't beat them, join them, but they are still on our side. Well, they have to play their stupid game spreading this shit, but we'll take that money to grow the progressive movement. Or maybe I'm naive.
You're naive.
Well, let's...
No, it's okay. It's okay, Emma. They're monetizing you in order to grow their platform, but they're going to use it for a good cause. They're going to use it to bring, to get right wingers on the side of Medicare for all and minimum wage.
Look, so
I'm sorry, you take $20 million from a 900 millionaire and then it doesn't pay any dividends, and all of a sudden you're lashing out. It's very simple what's going on, and it's unprincipled and disgusting.
Well, I mean, look, I think that when you take that money and if they were to say have given people big raises or say voluntarily recognize a union without hiring a union busting a law firm allegedly because really
probably the new stakeholder didn't really like the union idea. I don't know.
I think it's partly that I would imagine, but also partly like, the allegation, and you guys can read it. There was a Politico story about it in 2018. And also I would say that the NLRB complaint is public if people want to look it up, but they ended up having to recognize the union after a long legal fight. But,
I feel like Hank posted the NLRB complaint. Let me see if I can find it.
I know firsthand that there were efforts to suppress it. There are allegations of retaliatory firings. Or maybe not firsthand, I should say secondhand, but I've heard it from multiple people, specifically about the crew who were basically being allegedly denied overtime pay. So people can look up the NLRB complaint or whatever is already public with Politico and the other outlets that sourced their material and backed it up. And, for me, I think that not voluntarily recognizing a union as a supposed progressive company doesn't speak too highly about the sincerity of those values. But at the end of the day, they're moving away from leftism, progressivism, even centrism altogether, it appears. At the very least, the emphasis has been about how we need to cozy up to the populist right or whatever. But
and it was the same way he apologized for the Caruso endorsement, but he endorsed Caruso the exact same way he's doing this whole I'm going on PBD and pandering to Trump voters thing that he's doing now. It's pandering, but in a way that, oh, surprise, it's really rich guys and really powerful people who are going to benefit. Maybe that's what we need instead of these corporatists.
So this is what TYT had to post. We'll see more about this in Hank's documentary. We will rescind the rule we promulgated in the following statement to employees. I ask that you all bring your concerns directly to management rather than using Slack or emails that get sent to broad audiences. We will notify employees in writing that this has been done. So they had to post this in their office. National Labor Relations Act gives you the right to form, join, or assist a union, choose a representative to bargain with us on your behalf, act together with other employees for your benefit and protection, choose not to engage in any of these protected activities. We will not interfere, restrain, coerce. So they had to post this based on the NLRB complaint.
So, I mean, we had, honestly, because we're being accused of attacking them all the time, we had I had not spoken publicly about my feelings about their union busting. I'd spoken privately to a lot of people before, and I appreciate all the kind words that I got. And some people gave me some information I didn't know actually last night about it. So just because I didn't want to start beef, and we get IMs about things. We tried to respond in the best way that we could. And then recently we've been playing that funny sound drop just because we didn't.
It's shameful to have sold a progressive show studio to a crypto casino, regardless of who's
Peter
the
Thiel's involvement. Yeah, it's a overseas betting market that isn't even legally allowed in the United States. And to sell the naming rights of a progressive media company to a corporation, I would call that corporate media. I don't know about you.
When we made the Peacock thing, that was to get a new employee, pay employees. It wasn't this sort of thing where we're trying to start a whole bunch of properties that we own. So the guy who had $900 million and noticed that we had a lot of paying members and thought that was a good business opportunity, got his stake involved.
And at the end of the day, I'm now in a union. I am in SAG-AFTRA. So which is because the majority reports to SAG-AFTRA signatories. So I joined that, sometime this year. Sam's a part of that union as well. And I'm in favor of free and fair organizing without the employer doing anything but voluntarily recognizing the unions. Definitely not hiring a union busting law firm on that front, but
it's our size. We've talked about unionizing generally before, and if we were TYT size, we would have had a union by now.
And so all I'll say here is not
that they don't have one, but that, like you said, the NLRB.
Right. I got off track. It was all to say that basically we held off on a lot of things that I think were worthy of criticism just because we didn't, because of my past personal relationships. And I would say, Ana was a friend to me. I truly loved her as a friend. And I told her that. So it's very sad. But the reality is that my principles in this business about calling out people who are doing the why I left the left shtick to appeal to the right outweighs any personal relationships I'm going to make in this space. So with that said, since this audience is so interested in Dave Rubin and how much we ruthlessly mocked his arc of leaving the left from TYT, which Ana...
with Ana in the chair you're sitting in now at one point on the Michael Brooks show.
Laughing about it. I laughed about it with her. She laughed about it on air. We mocked this a lot. And in fact, Piers Morgan will play some of that mockery as well. Just to clarify things for folks, this is her explanation for her recent pivot.
But what people have said is they said you were quite outspoken. I'll play it to you. This is what you said when Dave Rubin pivoted. Let's have a look.
There has been this prevalence of prominent figures who identify as the left, right, or on the left, who then later start to, cozy up to right-wing figures, and then it turns out that they completely move to the right wing because they're essentially paid to do it. They're used as tools by the right wing to essentially spew right-wing talking points while purporting to still be on the left. In fact, Dave Rubin's a great example of that. Dave Rubin used to work with us. He identified as someone on the left.
Dave,
go ahead.
Forgive me, Ana. Dave Rubin.
So yeah, this is Ana talking to Dennis Prager back in the day, giving a pretty uncontroversial assessment of Dave Rubin. Dennis Prager tries to dispute this.
made a video for PragerU why I left the left.
Oh, I know.
He does not.
So he's not trying to pretend that he's on the left. No, Anna's describing a process. I think Prager probably knows what she's saying. He's just throwing dust in the air.
In fact, state to the world that he's still on the left. I don't know who you have in mind. So
I mean, she's right. She's right. But, he's just using kind of like an a priori misunderstanding to.
I can only address the one name that you gave.
So, I mean, have you pulled a Reuben, as some people suggest?
Not only has she pulled a Reuben, she's about to pull a Prager.
I mean, I'm still pretty left-wing, and I'm still working at the exact same place. Look, I don't know. Maybe I was wrong about Dave Rubin, but I just felt that he, first of all, after he left TYT, he did lie about us, and that bothered me because we were still friends, and I didn't understand what was going on. So I was discombobulated about what was happening with Dave after he left TYT.
Wait, for real, DJ Giga?
He did leave on good terms, so it was weird. And, he kept saying that he was this classical liberal, but had trouble defining what that meant and had trouble reinforcing or at least backing up.
Anna is my fave. Anna versus Anna is my fave. That's why I love that Piers Morgan made her confront this. This is the thing. Like, Anna's not going to go on any left-wing shows that would be like, hey, could you explain? You had a problem with Dave Rubin doing this. Why are you doing this now? You do owe Dave Rubin an apology. So it's kind of nice that at least somebody in the right-wingosphere is gonna point this out, that she's been slightly hypocritical here.
Up some of the claims that he was making about, his newfound identity. So look, live and let live. Dave is doing his thing. I did feel that his pivot was strange, but maybe it was sincere. Who knows?
Well, it's interesting. Somebody accused me of being
a phone hacking liar per a court in
oh god, yes, somebody was showing me this morning.
The UK.
You want to see this Piers Morgan stuff? I actually had not seen this until
I cannot prove that he who knew what at what time, but looking at his style of editorship, I would say that it was very unlikely that he didn't know that it was going on, because as I've said, there wasn't very much he didn't know about. As I think he said yesterday in his testimony, he took a very keen interest in the work of his journalists. Show business is very close to his heart. He was a show business columnist on The Sun, and a lot of the people on the show business desk at the Mirror, whilst I worked there, had indeed come from The Sun themselves, and they were old friends. And nothing really that happened on that desk happened without Piers knowing about it.
Was this a practice which, if we may add a third newspaper to the mix, was taking place within the Daily Mirror before 2004?
I do not believe so, no.
You don't believe so, or you're sure?
I don't believe so. To the best of my recollection, I do not believe so.
So there we go. There's Piers Morgan and his phone hacking scandal. The details of this are actually quite gruesome. We're talking about a family with a child that was deceased being the victims of the phone hacking in order to get the fucking story. So yeah, Piers Morgan is allegedly a reprehensible person.
You said in your book, and you confirmed in your evidence to the inquiry earlier, that the first you ever heard of the practice of phone hacking was on the 26th of January 2001. Is that correct?
Yes, that appears to be the case, judging by the entry in the book, yeah.
You were the editor of the Daily Mirror in August 1998, weren't you?
Yes.
And you remember, no doubt, Una Blackman, who was one of your editors. Is that correct?
Yes.
Were you aware, Mr. Morgan, that she was contacted by someone in August 1998 with a major news story about how mobile telephones could be hacked?
No.
The story came, we've heard, from...
Wait, did people have mobile phones in 1998?
Stephen Knott, a Welsh lorry driver. Miss Blackman, when he telephoned her, was very excited about this story and told him it would be one of the biggest headlines that decade.
Well, given that decade included events like the death of the Princess of Wales and other major events, I find that incredibly hard to believe. I have to say I watched his evidence
I've studied this man's website since then, and he seems to me one sandwich short of a picnic.
Finally, 12 days later, she came back and said that the newspaper wasn't interested in the story at all.
Well, that happens every hour of every day on a daily newspaper. We get offered thousands of stories like this, a lot of them from people like Mr. Knott, who are slightly barking.
He was very concerned, wasn't he, that you were going to use it at the Mirror for the purposes of obtaining stories about well-known people. Do you remember he gave that evidence?
Yeah, I saw bits of it. I didn't see the whole thing. I just think, honestly, this is a complete non-event as far as I knew nothing about this. It was never going to be a huge story in the Mirror. It never got suppressed for the reasons he is trying to insinuate. I think it's nonsense, the whole thing.
The story was entitled Mobile Phone Scandal.
Right. Where did it appear?
The story never appeared, but yet you paid him £100 without him even asking for it several weeks later.
And your point?
I asked the questions, Mr. Morgan. Were you aware of the payment at the time?
No.
Were you aware of the story at the time?
No.
Stories about a mobile phone scandal that we know has now caused such an outrage that it has led to the start of this inquiry.
I think you are massively self-inflating the importance of this particular character and his almost psychotically obsessive campaign to make people think this was a catalyst for all this. It had nothing, in my view, from what I've seen of him and his website and his testimony, absolutely nothing to do with him.
I've been asked to ask you about a lunch at Trinity Mirror on the 20th of September 2002. Okay, which was hosted, I think, by Sir Victor Blank.
I don't know precisely how many people were there. I would guess it was probably a dozen or so. The other people there were Sir Victor Blank, as I say, who was the host, who I think was the chairman of Trinity Mirror, Piers Morgan, the then editor of the Sunday Mirror, a woman whose name I've unfortunately now forgotten, Ulrika Johnson, Philip Green.
Mr. Morgan in particular, did he say anything during the course of this luncheon which was of interest or unusual?
Well, it's really the only... there were two reasons I remember the lunch. One was that it was so unusual to be invited into such a bestiary. The second of which was that I was really struck by some...
I'm sorry, a bestiary? Is that like a menagerie?
Piers Morgan said at lunch. I was seated, as far as I recall, between him on my left and the editor of the Sunday Mirror on my right. And Ulrika Johnson was seated opposite, almost next to Philip Green and Victor Blank on her other side, I think. And Morgan said, teasing Ulrika, that he knew what had happened in conversations between her and Sven-Göran Eriksson. And he went into this mock Swedish accent. Now, I don't know whether he was repeating a conversation that he had heard or he was imagining this conversation. In fact, to be fair to him, I think we should accept both possibilities, that he probably was imagining it. It was a rather bad parody. So, yeah, I do remember it quite, and I was quite struck by it because I'm rather wet behind the ears in many of these things. I didn't know that sort of thing went on. And indeed, when he then turned to me and said, "Have you got a mobile phone?" I said, "Yes." And he said, "Have you got a security setting on the message bit of it?" I don't think it was called voicemail in those days. I didn't know what he was talking about. And he then explained that the way to get access to people's messages was to go to the...
Okay, so this makes sense. We're not talking about smartphones at all. This is the 1990s. We're talking about the messages, the voice messages left on a cell phone, which apparently originally did not have to be accessed by a code. You could maybe ascertain the number to call to check messages on a cell phone via the phone number itself, and therefore anyone knowing someone's phone number could also be able to figure out how to listen to their messages. Is that's the kind of that's a very low level of hacking, but you know, this is something that people were apparently unaware of at the time.
And press either 000 or 1234, and that if you didn't put on your own code, his words, you're a fool. Now, I don't know whether he's talking about whether he was making this up, whether making up the conversation, but it was clearly something that he was familiar with, and I wasn't. I didn't know. I didn't know that this went on. If you were to say as a journalist you damn well should have known it was going on, I'd have to accept the criticism.
So yeah, the title of this clip is Piers Morgan told me how to hack phones. Anyway, getting back to MR, just a little side tangent there on Piers Morgan.
Okay, which said that, oh yeah, Piers Morgan saying he didn't know about all the journalists that worked under him, hacking into people's voicemails for information that they could put into stories. Yeah, people say things about Piers too. Oh, great company Anna's keeping lately.
Hanging out with Piers Morgan and other right-wingers and doing a lot of interviews. It is interesting, though, that, Cenk's going on PBD and all that kind of thing. It is interesting that still no response to Sam Seder's both private request to have a conversation about this on air on either TYT or on the Majority Report, if they feel more comfortable with it.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I feel like if Cenk was at all confident about this, he would definitely want to get Sam in a one-on-one debate situation.
They can do that there. So Sam asked that of Cenk in the summer, and then publicly, I guess, 2 weeks or so, basically said we can talk about this in a conversation. No response, but...
do I condemn hummus? Only certain brands. Only certain store-bought brands, which I will not mention on Twitch. For fear of getting banned.
To go to Glenn Beck's studio and have a conversation themselves. So, I think...
They are taking the what they have been credited for through years of good work with a lot of good people. They are packaging up that for the marketplace and advertising it through picking a lot of fights. They've been doing this for a long time. We, 2 years ago, put a video up. The original title of that video was Ana Kasparian is not transphobic, where we tried to talk about the birthing person bullshit in a way that was constructive and could kind of maybe lead in a proper direction.
Yeah, I'll go one step further. I feel like you were way too kind. And there were people saying that MR was treating TYT with kid gloves. I mean, it's understandable given their prior relationship and given their attempt to be constructive. But MR was actually put in a bad position by TYT when they come out with a video that's called TYT is not transphobic, and then TYT goes full transphobe. That makes MR look bad. So they, if anything, that they're worthy of criticism here, it's of being too good of faith, not of trying to stoke drama like TYT is doing. And Matt is right that they use this shit to advertise themselves. They cause fights with the progressive left in order to advertise them to their new constituency, which is the MAGA right. And any video that TYT does on trans rights, trans people, trans anything, you can see it in the comments. There's nothing but transphobic garbage in those comments, right? That's their new constituency. That is their new audience.
She didn't listen to any of that, and instead got mad that somebody said that we were treating her with kid gloves. Because the truth was, we have been. For my entire career here at Majority Report, it has been a tongue-holding exercise for like Wolfpack, fucking harebrained. How many packs are we going to start to get money in the money out of politics?
They have not been called out for their ridiculous behavior. Yes, there's so much there. There's so much there. There's so much just sitting there. Brianna Wu, like, explain yourself, TYT. Explain yourself. Like, it's one thing to be like, okay, look, I mean, this sounds weird, right? But we started a PAC to try to help get money out of politics. But like, what do we got? Wolfpack, Rebellion PAC? How many PACs are there? Political Action Committee. In other words, money in politics.
We have been.
How about one that pays Brianna Wu 5 figures for doing
deny a genocide
to post on Twitter?
You need to understand that actually
they're not mean. They're nice. Maybe too nice, right? If you want to criticize them for anything, criticize them for being too nice. Criticize them for assuming that their friends are not going to stab trans people in the back. like the way that they did.
So it has been based on what I have asked for, really, in part because of and because of my personal feelings about the situation and because of how sad it made me. I'm not somebody, trust me, you can ask my exes. I didn't break up with a lot of people. I stayed in way too many relationships for way too long because I tried to make things work for quite a while. That's not what happened here. So for us, I have plenty of wonderful friends in my personal life. I know you do as well, Matt. I don't need to put my
Joe Destiny says hummus is smushed up chickpeas, right? Yeah, pretty much.
Relationships ahead of my professional.
Little tahini, little lemon juice, some salt, maybe some cumin.
Professional integrity.
It's kind of inappropriate to do so.
Even though in terms of like closeness, there are very few people in this field that I felt as close to as her. And at one point I would say she was my best friend in this industry. But I have to, cut bait at this point because she also made an accusation that I heard that I called her sexual assault titillating, which if I were to be charitable, I'd say she was listening to one of those like stupid crime right-wing podcasts that she seems to be a fan of these days, and they cut it up in a way that was misleading, or she's just lying about me because I would never, ever, ever do that. My case has always been that like some of these tough on crime narratives specifically,
like it doesn't even make sense. And what they're counting on is their parasocial relationship with their audience. And there has been a dynamic established. People that they're close to, people that they're friends with, people that were, I guess in the Majority Report's case, at one time or another, kind of part of their network, have gone to the right, have gotten weird, like Jimmy Dore did, right? Have become people that they don't want to work with anymore, right? And they're trying to sell the narrative that this is what's happening with Majority Report. Majority Report they're making a power grab. They're doing a clout chase or something like that, and that Emma's this horrible person that's like, oh, is she trying to titillate people with stories of her essay? No, that's not what Emma said at all. That's not even close to what Emma said, right? The titillation is not like, sexual in nature. It's a titillation of racism. It's a titillation of racist instincts. It's a titillation of audiences like those of Actual Justice Warrior, a quote unquote black crime YouTuber. And I'm sorry, Sean, if you don't like being called that, that's what the fuck you are. That's who your audience is. That's what they want to see. That's what they're looking for. And that's what you're fucking giving them, because you are a first-class scumbag. And yes, you are titillating their fucking worst racist instincts.
When a white woman is the subject of harm, are titillating to some people on the right who like to imagine themselves as white knights saving white women from the hordes of black poor.
Literally AJW. Literally AJW.
In this city.
And again, you're being very kind, because we all know, as part of this business, why Steven Crowder starts his show with videos of young black teenagers assaulting elderly women, right? Like, we know what this is. And to say that actually what is being titillating is the act caught itself, and not what this sort of poverty porn and violence porn is doing politically, you are fucking stupid. And you should not be in this business if you cannot take...
Yeah, exactly, Omega Star. You've really got to look down. You've really got to see Emma as being a very, unbelievably horrible person in order to buy into what Ana is saying.
For what it is. You are...
In other words, they're going for the audience that just doesn't know. They know, like, yeah, Majority Report, they were like friendly with TYT, but I don't really watch them, probably because it's too brainy. Like, let's be real. Probably because that first half is a very serious discussion, sometimes even a policy discussion on stuff that people, if they're not versed in that policy, might not find interesting, right? Very different from what TYT serves up, which is essentially it's like Velveeta cheese covering some overcooked broccoli, as opposed to MR that gives you your vegetables.
Stoking crime narratives, and people should watch the Jose Nadejay video of they keep trying to distract from the real issues and are making the audience that is loyal to them dumber. The thing about Peter Thiel is not that Peter Thiel's a poly market, it's because of you promoting betting. The thing with this Jose
and crypto.
The thing with Venezuela, the Venezuela gangs and the slum in Colorado is not that gang activity happens in slums. It's that the neglect that has led to those conditions, which, by the way, there were gangs that weren't Venezuelan in those slums before that. But that
yeah. When I looked into this, like Aurora, Colorado, I did find that it is one of the, has a very high crime rate compared to the rest of the story. So, there's definitely crime going on there. There probably is gang activity going on there. But some of these claims that were made about the Venezuelan gangs that supposedly had infiltrated into Aurora, Colorado, were made before the wave of Venezuelan immigration. It's just like the dates don't match up, right? Jose absolutely showed TYT for the sloppy journalists that they are. All they're doing is providing titillation for racists.
A news story, because what is a news story for this is we want to stoke fear of immigrants. So yes, this is the video that everyone should watch, and TYT can keep pretending that it's, they found a gang member in a slum. As if that's vindicating of this. They took a line, hook, line, and sinker from a law firm representing a slumlord to point to immigrants as the problem and not the overall conditions that lead to any sort of gang activity, any sort of violence in places like this that is unaddressed. And it cannot be addressed simply by cops and border patrol. But here's the video. This is Jose.
Where did Emma supposedly say this? I don't think Anna said. I don't think Anna was specific. And that's, she doesn't want anybody to check on her. She doesn't want anybody to check and see, like, if there was a real thing where Emma had said this, then that Anna could, show the video. Anna could put the URL to the video in the description of her video, right? There's so many ways that she could have done that. She wasn't interested in her audience. She doesn't want to give her audience a way to fact check this. Emma did say something about titillation, but it wasn't in regards to Anna's essay. It was in regards to the kind of racist crime content that she's doing, very similar to that of AJW.
How the Young Turks pushed a right-wing propaganda story, and it would be nice if our communicators could actually address one of these issues directly instead of saying, she used Facebook, or look there was a gang member. They're distracting from the point, and they're banking on stupidity of remaining viewers. And so, welcome to the Majority Report, everybody who's flocking from that fucking sinking ship. And I feel really bad saying this.
Well, I
for
feel
all the people who are good at that network,
so many,
which is most people that aren't the hosts.
TYT is a sinking ship. There probably are still some good people on that ship. Once they step outside of that echo chamber and see that the reality, it's like the vaults in Fallout. When you're in the vault, however your vault overseer describes the outside world is how you're going to believe it is. But once you go outside the vault and you see that there are people that are surviving, there are people that are making communities. Yes, there are dangers. Yes, there's radiation, but it's not the fucking thermonuclear wasteland that has been described. You're going to be able to see that you were lied to. God, I hate to have to go to video game references, but that one comes to mind.
Work there, including John Idarola, including Francesca Fiorentini, who is a contractor, I believe, and deserved a lot better herself. For a lot of folks that got laid off.
Mondale Robinson just left.
People who, one person in particular who...
So yeah, people have been telling me about the Mondale Robinson clip on Benjamin Dixon. If we get a chance, we'll watch that, all right?
Really liked working with, who may have been retaliatorily fired because he was a part of the organizing effort. At least that's a part of the allegations. And perhaps there was an NDA involved. I'm not necessarily sure. But those are the kinds of things that I just find to be, it's sad to see, but I guess at the end of the day, what strikes me from that, and we'll just wrap it up here, is the focus on Dave Rubin being a bad friend.
Yes. This wasn't about politics then?
I guess not.
For me, it was about...
It never is for TYT.
Politics.
But maybe the Jimmy Dore stuff wasn't about politics either. For me, it was always about his bad politics. At the end of the day, he did.
Yeah, Jimmy Dore, I think, started to have some pretty bad politics before he even resigned from TYT.
By the way, sexually harass Anna and was really horrific to Francesca Fiorentini.
Like, there were signs with Jimmy Dore early on.
Direct message as well. Perhaps those were just about personal issues, but I, at least for a while, thought that it was about principles. My issues with Dave Rubin and Jimmy Dore, and now Anna and Cenk, are about the politics of it. It's not about personal relationships, because in fact, if I were more focused on maintaining personal relationships, I wouldn't have even said anything at all. But now we've said it, and that's the reality.
Yeah.
And people can look up that NLRB complaint if they would like themselves. It's publicly available.
Not a great thing to have out on a progressive network. You know, maybe hold back on the crypto casino thing for you.
So it is personal to a degree, but only right now, because we've basically, I feel, in my view, not been as aggressive because we were trying to give a lot of benefit of the doubt. But since the project now seems clear, I think that gloves are off, basically.
Yeah, and this is conscious. This is not just about fighting us.
Course.
This is about them seeking new markets.
Yeah.
So it's actually probably even helping them with Glenn Beck seeing, you know, their name get dragged through the mud. I guess. I mean, I assume that's a calculation because it's hard to understand what the hell they're doing besides that.
Niall from Trinidad said, oh, shoot. Did you see a TYT anchor quit on air? I did not see that.
Okay, so yeah, hopefully we have time for that.
To the right or something like that. I mean, again, I think a lot of people might have even taken exception earlier, but I imagine people's contracts are close to.
They're talking about Mondale Robinson there, so hopefully we'll get a chance to see that.
Just a pure shot in the dark, but I imagine that is having effect on some people.
Milo the dang Bilo said, I am the left, has been said by no one on the actual left. I am the Senate.
That's what it's so funny how like
yeah, you hear somebody saying I'm the real left.
The left
just
is
like
the people we interview.
Yeah.
That are organizing and like doing actual work. Media is, you only call the media the left when you're trying to fucking sell it.
That's exactly right. We're a megaphone, and to the best of our ability, we want to highlight the kinds of people and issues that we think are going to make a difference.
And not sort of co-sign Greg Abbott's border policy on Glenn Beck's show.
So gross. So gross. Also wanted to thank my Patreons while I am at it. Everybody who's a Patreon of mine gets access to my videos before they come out. That's right. You get to watch it early, and you get to watch it sometimes unredacted, unedited, and even uncensored, right? So you got all the F words. If I say the F word, right? That's everybody that supports me on Patreon that gets that. For the members at $5 and above, you also get a fancy shout out. So shouts out to Or Else Ellipsis, shouts out to Temporal Insanity, shouts out to Funky Monkey, shouts out to Shaxby, shouts out to Nadia, shouts out to Moe Noe, shouts out to Just Julie, shouts out to Jules K, shouts out to JR, shouts out to Hot Ham Radio, shouts out to Good for Gabby, and a fancy shout out to Zara Xerix, to Rachel K, to Crystal Safira, and to Omega Star. No comment.